Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Travis.
And I'm Andrew.
And today we're going to be discussing the 2017 NFL preview for the Minnesota Vikings. As we all know, last year they started off fantastic. 5-0. That defense was playing on another level. And then we all know what ended up happening. They pretty much lost most of their games for the rest of the season. You know, obviously last year Teddy Bridgewater, he went down with an injury. That was a big blow. They ended up having to give up a first-round draft pick to get Sam Bradford.
Which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, that was losing a first-round draft pick. That was big. But what are some of their off-season needs going into this year?
Well, their biggest need was obviously to fix that offensive line. I mean, their offensive struggles was really why they struggled last year. And that really started with their offensive line because they couldn't protect the quarterback at all. The tackle play was awful.
If you can't protect your quarterback, I mean, the offense, it's just going to not do well.
Yeah, especially with a guy like Sam Bradford who doesn't really move that well.
Yeah.
It just really didn't work out for them. Another need they had was running back because, Adrian Peterson got injured early in the year in week 2, I think.
Yeah.
And missed the rest of the season. He wasn't playing that well anyway leading up to that. So they needed to get, another answer at running back to kind of, transition from the Adrian Peterson era to the next era.
Yes.
And also wide receiver is kind of a big need for them because, their defense is set, it's stacked.
Oh, yeah, they got
There's so
great
much
defense.
talent on that defense.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to getting an exceptional wide receiver. They had some solid play out of guys like Stephon Diggs
and
Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
But they need, a guy that can really step up. They thought Laquan Treadwell would be that guy for them as a first-round pick. And he only had one catch for 15 yards last year. So he really struggled. Maybe he gets back to that first-round form this year. But as of now, their wide receiving core looks a little bit weak, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Treadwell, everyone thought he was, some were saying he was the best wide receiver in college. To only have a one catch, he obviously struggled to learn their playbook. Hopefully going to his second year, he'll have to have a big year for them to make the playoffs again. But what were some of their big free agency additions they had?
Well, they really tried to fix that offensive line issues that they had last year, getting 2 new tackles to replace Khalil, and I believe Andre Smith was the other tackle last year. So they got in Riley Reid from the Detroit Lions, who was moved to the right tackle last year when they got Taylor Decker because he struggled at left tackle. So he moved in the right tackle. He played pretty decent for them there, but he wasn't spectacular. They're bringing him in to be their starting left tackle this year. So I'm not sure if that's an upgrade over Khalil, but I think they get a different guy in there because Khalil was struggling for them. So maybe a change of scenery for Riley Reid, Riley Reid will help out for them. And they also got another tackle, Mike Remmers from the Carolina Panthers.
Now, if you don't remember Mike Remmers, he was the guy who got embarrassed by Von Miller in the Super Bowl. But to be fair, Von Miller makes a lot of offensive linemen look like that. But he was a pretty big, he was kind of a part of that Carolina offense. And to get him, he was a good player. I think he played right tackle for them because they had Michael Orr. So, it's kind of shocking for the Vikings to pick up 2 right tackles in free agency and to both give them pretty big money.
So, obviously, Reeves going to play the left side because Remmers doesn't have the pass blocking ability to play on the left side, so he's going to be at right tackle. But I guess maybe they see it as bringing new faces in will kind of improve it just by, just getting new faces in there. But they also made other moves too. What were some of the other moves that they made? Yeah,
they also ended up getting running back Latavius Murray from the Raiders. We were talking about what their offense will look like post Adrian Peterson. This guy, he's got all the physical traits you'd see in a star running back, but he really hasn't had a great, fantastic season. Hopefully for the Minnesota Vikings, he'll do better. But he had that great offensive line in Oakland, and everyone thought he'd dominate, and he really didn't.
Yeah, he's a solid running back. Again, that offensive line for Oakland and the passing attack they have there with Derek Carr really helped him out last year and the past couple of years, really. But I think he's a solid running back, and we'll get to Dalvin Cook later. But to combine him with Dalvin Cook, there's an intriguing backfield there for the running back position for the Vikings. But they also tried to add some depth to that wide receiving core, getting Michael Floyd, who we all know has his issues off the field.
Yeah, that DUI. This is probably one of the biggest controversial signings. Obviously in Arizona, he was this great wide receiver, very tall, very athletic, and obviously he's a good playmaker, but he's got a lot of off-the-field issues. Is it worth taking a chance on a guy like that?
I think it's worth taking a chance on him I don't know the exact contract they have with him. I don't know if there's a lot of guaranteed money, but as a low risk, borderline, minimum salary with little guaranteed money, it makes sense to bring him in and see what he's got. Especially if you're not sure what you're going to get out of Treadwell this year. I think it makes sense. And Michael Floyd was a first-round pick. He was a highly touted wide receiver coming out of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And he played well at times for Arizona, too. I mean, people forget in 2015, he had a really good year with Carson Palmer slinging it around. So maybe a new situation will help him out a bit. But if he's not able to make it with the Patriots, I'm not sure he's going to make it anywhere else. So we'll see it with that signing.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't become a big distraction for the Vikings. I think, their coach was quoted on saying if he was caught lying about that failed alcohol test, they'd cut him right away. So we'll see what happens with that. But a few other under-the-radar signings they picked up this year. They got cornerback Terrence Newman and defensive end Dante Jones from the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, those are just depth signings because their defense is already loaded with young talent, too. That's the other thing. They're a young defense, too.
Yeah.
So just to get veteran guys in there to just help them out, I think it's always a plus.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with too many guys at that position.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was a good depth signing, but transitioning from their free agent additions, they also had some pretty big free agency departures. They lost guys like Adrian Peterson, Jake Long, and Chad Greenway. Chad Greenway, he was kind of like one of those guys. He was the heart and soul of their defense. He wasn't a great player, but
he was very solid.
He was very solid. Minnesota fans loved him. He was a hard. He worked really hard.
Which is what you want out of a football player, especially on defense. Yeah, so Adrian Peterson's kind of the biggest departure because Jake Long couldn't really play anymore. He's too old.
Yeah.
Didn't play well last year, so that's not a big loss. Matt Khalil, again, didn't play well last year. Not a big loss. Again, they lost Andre Smith.
Yeah.
Didn't play well last year, so it's not a big loss. So Adrian Peterson's kind of the big one because that's kind of signaling a transition from, again, the Adrian Peterson era to the next era of the Vikings where they're going to be defensive-oriented.
Yeah.
And maybe they're going to build around Teddy Bridgewater or Sam Bradford, whoever wins that quarterback position battle. But, they didn't really lose that much. Maybe the biggest guy they lost was Cordero Patterson because he was such a dynamic threat as a return man, as a weapon on offense. He's not really a number one wide receiver or anything like that.
Yeah.
But as a return specialist, I mean, this guy's dynamic in the open field.
Yeah, obviously Cordell Patterson, he was a home run player. He was great at that. With kickoffs being moved closer, though, there's not much of a kickoff return game, so I can see why they didn't re-sign him. But I'm kind of just looking at this list. Matt Khalil, he was a really high draft pick. I think everyone expected him to be a great offensive lineman. So seeing him gone, Vikings fans will be happy and sad because he did not turn out well for Minnesota.
I think he had a good rookie year initially.
Yeah, he
but
did.
Ever since then, just
went down, kept going downhill for him. Yeah, Andre Smith, he was actually a pretty good offensive tackle. He battled injuries, but he's had very good play in the past.
Yeah.
So losing him, that will hurt a little bit. Cornerback Captain Munnerlyn, he was a really good player. He was their slot cornerback. So losing a defensive back who started for them, that will hurt a little bit, but. They also got Terrence Newman, so that'll help, fill the
And they have a bunch of young guys on their roster that are going to want to get playing time, like Trey Waynes. I believe they drafted another guy last year, Mackenzie Alexander. They drafted the year before. Yeah. So again, they're stacked with young talent on that in the defensive backfield. Yeah. So I think they just want to see some of those younger guys play. Yeah. So speaking of the draft, let's move on to some of the draft selections. They didn't have a first-round pick this year because they traded for Sam Bradford. Yeah. But their first pick was in the second round. They ended up getting a first-round talent in Dalvin Cook. Yeah. So what do you see with Dalvin Cook there?
I thought this was a great pick. Obviously, with Adrian Peterson gone, Dalvin Cook was a great running back in college for Florida State. He was a home run hitter. He would always break off the big plays. He didn't really post a good 40-yard at the combine, which made his draft stock go down a lot. But I still think he can be a very valuable player, a guy who could possibly even make an impact from day one for the Vikings.
Yeah, if you watch him play, this guy is big time in terms of big playability.
He's got great field vision. Yep. That's probably his best strength.
And he can be a 3-down back as well. He's got receiving ability to go along with his running ability. So I think that's a great pick for them. The only reason he dropped out of the first round was because they heard about off-field issues with some of the people that he hangs out with. Yeah. That was the main story that I was hearing is why he fell down. But this guy's a first-round talent. These guys were the talk leading up to the draft was him, Leonard Fournette, and Christian McCaffrey, who's the best running back in this draft class, and he was consistently put among those two other guys. So I think to get him in the second round is great value for them. But in the third round, they got a center, Pat Elflein. It's a weird. His last name's weird.
Elflein, yeah.
Yeah, but again, they're trying to strengthen that offensive line, so I'm not sure if he's going to be a starter for them, but he definitely helps them in terms of depth and bringing another young guy to help that offensive line.
Yeah, no, in college he was really good center for Ohio State. You know, picking him up in the 3rd round. Obviously, Minnesota needs as much as help as they can get on the offensive line. So I thought that was a really good pickup for them. You know, he could be a guy, you know, into training camp, you know, you don't really hear much about, but with good play, he could potentially take that starting center spot.
Yeah, and another thing, leading up to the draft, a lot of hype was around him was that he's very versatile. He could play all 5 spots on the offensive line. So he gives them a lot of options in terms of he can play guard for them. He can maybe go to tackle in some instances, but I think they're going to try him out at center first and see how that goes. But he offers them a lot of versatility on that offensive line.
Yeah.
But, you know, they made some other selections too. Some other things I liked was getting Jaleel Johnson, a defensive tackle out of Iowa, kind of a solid run-stopping guy. You know, just the rich get richer in terms of that defense because their defense is already loaded. And to get a guy like that who, in a really deep defensive class, I mean, they just kept on strengthening that defense.
Yeah, I thought that was a good pick, too, because I believe Sharif Floyd was hurt last year, so you're not sure how he's going to come back after that. So adding another defensive tackle, you know, you can never have too much defensive line depth. So I thought that was a really good signing. He also ended up getting a kick returner and a linebacker later in the rounds. You know, Chad Greenway retiring and Cordell leaving in free agency. I thought those were good value picks at the time. You know, I think the kick returner, I think he'll probably start for them in special teams. He was really known for that in college.
Yeah, again, just trying to get that depth on that roster. Those are what these late draft picks are for. And I thought they did a pretty good job with their draft considering they didn't have a first-round pick. Yeah. So, again, the Vikings, they have one of the deepest rosters in the league. You know, their offensive line was an issue for them last year. Quarterback position is probably still an issue for them going into this year. But they're one of the more stacked teams in the league if you look at all-around talent.
Yeah, all-around talent. They got talent all across the board. So, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Transitioning from the draft, we're going to go into training camp. You know, there's lots of storylines that are going to be going on. What are some of the big headlines going into training camp?
Well, obviously, the biggest storyline is their offensive line because they made a huge amount of additions and departures there. So, getting those new tackles in and the rookie that they got in the draft, you know, how's that offensive line going to shake out? What combinations they're going to use? How will, you know, Reef adjust to being a left tackle again?
Yeah, that's going to be a big question.
That's a huge transition for them. And, you know, I'm not sure if any of these moves made them better on the offensive line or it was just the sake of, you know, we're just getting new names in here just for the sake of new names and seeing if that works out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's interesting what they did in the offensive line, but I'm not sure if they got any better, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of new faces, and right now for training camp, it's all about getting to know the guy next to you. So it'll be interesting to see how they grow as a unit. Obviously, they had some guys like Matt Khalil who ended up not being who they thought. So they ended up losing him and bringing new guys who will hopefully kind of forget the taste of Matt Khalil. Because you bring up Matt Khalil to Vikings fans, and they're just like, oh.
Yep.
Like, so it'll be interesting to see how if their offensive line, you know, I would say they will improve because it's kind of hard to do worse than they did last year.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I guess that's some optimism for you Viking fans.
But other than that, I mean, I think it's kind of just a linear move for me.
Yeah.
So another big storyline for me also is who will step at the running back position because they added Latavius Murray. They drafted Dalvin Cook. Those are two dynamic players for them. How do you see that running back position taking care of itself?
Yeah, I think, you know, starting off early in the season, they'll probably go running back as committee. Basically, whoever has the hot hand, they'll give them the ball and see how it plays out from there. There's really not a guy who I would say has a hold on the starting job right now. You know, maybe Latavius Murray because he's got experience in the NFL.
Yep.
You know, you kind of know what you're getting from him. You know, but Dalvin Cook can be a guy, you know, early on the season, if he plays well in training camp, if he presses in preseason, this is a guy that could take over that backfield.
Again, this is a first-round talent. He's a dynamic player.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great steal for them. And you also got a guy like Jerick McKinnon who's been there for a while. He's a good receiving back. And so, you know, those three guys got to complement each other well.
Yeah, I also got to throw in Matt Asiata, who Vikings fans may not like very much, but the coaches seem to like him. He got a lot of playing time last year.
That goal line vulture in fantasy football.
Basically. But, you know, the last and probably the biggest storyline, because their defense is fine. Their defense is going to be excellent all year probably. But, you know, we talk about the wide receivers as a big need going into the offseason. To me, another big storyline is Laquan Treadwell. You know, what are we going to get out of him as a first-round pick for the Vikings? Because he really didn't do anything last year for the Vikings.
No, like we said, he only had one catch, and he really struggled to earn playing time on the field. You know, obviously he's going to have to gain some of that trust back from Mike Zimmer hopefully in this offseason, this is a time to get more used to their playbook. He's going into his second year, so hopefully he'll have a better understanding of NFL defenses and route running. And they drafted him to be their number one guy.
Yeah.
So I think if the Vikings are looking to get back into the playoffs, that defense is Super Bowl defense ready.
That's a Super Bowl ready.
So
defense.
you just need to get that offense going, and one way is if Laquan Treadwell can really step up and improve his play. That'll help with the passing attack. If the passing attack's going, that'll help with the running game. So really, it's all about Laquan Treadwell. Can he prove up to his height?
Yep. And another thing with Laquan Treadwell, he helps out their quarterback situation too, because they have two guys battling for that quarterback spot. Because we don't know with Teddy Bridgewater whether he'll be healthy or not.
Yeah.
He's still recovering from that horrific knee injury, which I hope he gets better because he looked like a really young, solid player for them.
Yeah, it's always sad to see a young player get injured.
So that's another thing to look out for is how that quarterback battle kind of works itself out with all those wide receivers and weapons there. So again, there's a lot of turnover on that offense. But if they can get their chemistry down, I think it's going to take a while for that to happen.
Yeah.
But if their chemistry can just get better as the year goes on, the Vikings could be a dangerous team to look out for.
Yeah, they'll definitely be trying to, take the crown from the Green Bay Packers. With the Detroit Lions. The NFC North, they're starting to look like a loaded division again.
Yeah, it's looking really, really competitive for those top three spots in the division. We'll get to the other team later.
Yeah. Well, that's our 2017 preview for the Minnesota Vikings. The next team will be the Chicago Bears. And then after that, we'll be doing our predictions for how many wins each team will be getting.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for watching, and stay tuned.